Study section 17. Modern South African drama, Arthur Fugard. Introduction. The works of Arthur Fugard offer an avenue to explore some of the political and artistic tensions in the work of one of Africa's leading writers. Importantly, the nature of the terrain in which Fugard is writing, repressive and antagonistic, censorious and neurotically suspicious, lend to the tension inherent in his works. Objective. At the end of this lecture, you should be able to practically relate Fugard's work to the context of his apartheid South Africa. Importantly, his style and thematic preoccupation. Contents. Harold Arthur Laniger Fugard was born on 11th June 1932 in Middlebury in Great Karoo, Cape Province, South Africa. He was the second of his parents' 3 children. His Anglo-Irish father, Harold Fugard, a former jazz pianist and the son of Catholic immigrants from England, and his mother, Elizabeth Madalena Potgieter, the daughter of Afrikaner family with deep roots in South Africa. Beginning in 1941, he and his brother and sister assisted their mother at a tea shop where Fugard observed racism and its destructive effects on the lives of the black and colored, that is, of mixed race origins. Members of South African society at first hand, this period left him with the deep and scathing impressions that later shaped his commitments, views, and writings. From 1946 to 1950, Fugard studied motor mechanics at the Port Elizabeth Technical School. In 1950, he was awarded a scholarship to study for 2 years for a Bachelor of Arts degree in philosophy with social science, social anthropology, and French at the University of Cape Town. He won 2 class medals for academic achievement at the end of the first year. Fugard left the university to Port Sudan later, where he later traveled to Pacific Asia. Although he did not obtain a degree, his university study under Professor Martin Versfeld had introduced him to the existentialist belief that personal ethics should be founded on individuals' experiences and choices, rather than on the unquestioned acceptance of traditional faiths, and on the life and his decision to remain in South Africa under apartheid. Between 1955 and 1957, he worked as regional news reporter in the Evening Post, which entailed active participation in the unfolding drama of his country politics. He later married Sheila Marine at the university. They formed the African Theatre Workshop and began performing Fugard's one-act play, with Sheila directing most of them. In 1958, Fugard worked briefly as the stage manager and publicity agent for the South African National Theatre Organization and is No Good Friday, followed by Nogongo 1959, and after which he worked as a court clerk where cases involving blacks arrested for contravening the pass laws or reference book were tried. Pass laws, regulations that restricted blacks and colored to specific parts of the country and permitted them to enter white-only areas, only with passes and only for a specified period of time, were employed by the authorities of the conservative Afrikaner Nationalist Party to ensure the racial segregation of South Africa and the socio-political emasculation of blacks and colored. As a result, Fugard came into close contact with the effect of apartheid on individuals, and he forged friendships with some members of the rustic groups. He later remarked that his work in the court was the ugliest thing I have ever been part of. Afrikaner Humanist Observer, 18 July 1971. By 1963, The government effort forward emasculation of black and other opponents of apartheid intensified, and the white regime banned all opposition and criticism. As a result, writers and political figures went into exile. Others were jailed for attempting to exercise artistic and creative freedom. Fugard's rapport with other groups brought landmark development in his theatre and new experimentation which produced such legacies as The Coat, 1967, Since Bansi is Dead, 1972, The Island, 1973, and A Lesson from Alus, 1978. Incidents in Fugard's life during these years directly influenced his experiments and improvisation in the theatre. For instance, during visit to court with the wife of an arrested member of the group, Fugard observed an imprisoned old man, draw the woman aside, and hand her a coat to deliver to his family. The improvisation built around this incident yielded the coat. One of the greatest influences on Fugard's life and writings is traceable to the underprivileged circumstances of his birth, which exposed him to the harsh deprivations of a life low on the economic ladder and thrust him in contact with the poorer and more deprived and black citizens of the country. According to Victor Nkegbu, his close-knit family influenced the fascination and concern with the nexus of family relationships. This and the mixed heritage of his parents led to early exposure to different artistic influences and a respect for other races. Both parents were struggling storytellers. From his father, he inherited a command of the English language. His mother, a sense of roots and the texture undertone of South African society. 2002-265. The influence of dramatists such as Beckett and Camus, and of theatre directors such as Peter Brooks and Jerry Grotowski also helps to shape Fugard's theatrical style and his preoccupation with the lives of common people. Some of his works were collaborative efforts. Some works, The Cell, Class, and The Devil, The Last Boss, and Friday Breed on Monday, remain unpublished. The published plays include No Good Friday, 1958, Nogongo, 1959, The Block Knot, 1961, Hello and Goodbye, 1965, The Coat, 1967, People Are Living There, 1968, Bosman and Lena, 1969, Hostess, 1971, Statements After an Arrest Under the Immorality Act, 1972, Swese Bansi is Dead, 1972, The Island, 1973, Demetos, 1975, A Lesson from Alus, 1978, The Drummer, 1980, Master Harold and the Boys, 1982, The Road to Mecca, 1984, A Place with the Pigs, 1987, My Children, My Africa, 1990, and Valley Songs, 1995. His works offer an opportunity to explore some of the political and artistic tensions in the work of one of Africa's leading writers. As outsiders read any work of South African literature, he is conscious of this underlying reality. Acts produced in such hostile circumstances must be vulnerable to political temptations and aesthetic dangers, which are in equal measure aesthetic temptations and political dangers. As Fugard himself has said, there are several ideas I have for plays which I just know would not be allowed to reach the stage, or if they did, will be shut down very soon after opening. 1974, page 10. According to Robert Greene, drama is perhaps a more fragile imperial genre than fiction. In these forbidding circumstances, under the constant threat of censorship or closure, it is inspiring and remarkable that Fugard has created plays at all. 1976, page 167. Fugard's thematic and stylistic preoccupation. The lives of common people have been his main subject matter. Apartheid and the politics of institutionalized racism are the powerful forces that frame his work. He also uses politics as a subterranean theme, according to Julian Mitchell. The truth being told is so saturated in politics that politics never has to be mentioned. Characters and their speeches, the setting of place and costumes are all laced with unspoken but evident political statements about life in South Africa. As a result, these works are spared the burden of propaganda that speak powerfully and effectively through their presence and silence. 2002 266. In statements after an arrest under the Immorality Act, in statements 3 place 1974, the effect of sexual prohibitions upon man's erotic and emotional growth, repression and barbarity are portrayed explicitly. This play would never be misunderstood in the ghetto as succoring apartheid. The play exemplifies the sexual encounter between a white woman, Freda Jobert, and a married black man, Enro Philander. Immediately loses its stigma in comparison to the contemptuous attention of Mrs. Bai's Nopin, the ash glare and flash of Detective Sergeant Duepre's camera, and the callousness of the police reports. These interferences are supported fully by the laws of racial segregation. As a matter of fact, the discovery and arrest are not born out of true moral concerns, but by law of racial purity, which robs people of their basic humanity. Apartheid ends our censure, and the guilty pair are clearly victims, not criminals. Politics makes the sexual acts immoral by controlling people's private lives. Enros remarks that there is no tomorrow, just today, 1974, page 87, is enough indictment for the system. The same bestial political machinery condemns Zachariah to a life of dreams, dissonance, and pain in the block north in 3 Port Elizabeth play, 1974, and keeps Bosman Lennon perpetually on the move with their ranged belongings. As Bosman put, we are white man's rubbish. That's why he's so benock, mad, fed up with us. He can't get rid of his rubbish. He throws it away, we pick it up, wear it. We are made of it now. His rubbish people. We have been thrown away. 1980 277. The play confronts all non-whites in South Africa as Johnny and Esther painfully discover in Hello and Goodbye, 1966. Esther laments, "We weren't just poor, it was something worse second-hand, used up and old, and before we got it, nothing ever reached us. New, even his days, felt like the old world has lived them out before they reached us." 1966, page 52. In this plays, the reality of a statutory inhumanity is a ceaseless murmur at the level of their subtext of the characters. Bowman and Lena is sufficiently indirect to have nearly provoked a riot against Fugard during one ghetto production. In Fugard's Sizwe Bansi is Dead, 1972, which is a satire on the apartheid system in South Africa. It is a protest against a political system in which different races coexisting within the same nation do not have equal political, social, and economic rights. There is no freedom for the blacks. He is not allowed to vote. He cannot be voted for. And he is not allowed the same educational opportunities as the whites. Employment opportunities are limited, largely to menial jobs. He is not even allowed to share of dignity. The black man cannot own property. He has no patch or land to call his own. The book monitors his movements and activities. All blacks have to carry it on their persons at all times. Before a black man can take up residence in another town, he has to produce the book. In school, at work, on the road, to buy clothes, he must have the book with him. Even in church, he has to carry the book. That bloody book. People, do you know? No. Wherever you go, is that bloody book you go to school. It goes to go to work, it goes to go to church and play and sing lovely hymns. It sits there with you. Go to hospital to die. It lies there too. 1972, page 35. It is in this inhuman and demeaning treatment of the blacks that the playwright condemns in the highly comic and satiric play. Although the play draws laughter from us, it also passes a moral lesson. Apartheid is dehumanizing. Certain indices of traditional satire are also evident in the play. Prominent among them is the use of irony. It is ironical that Styles' father, who fought during the Second World War so that the world might be free, came back home to become a slave in his country. It is also ironical that a man who was not discriminated against at the war front was now regarded as inferior when it comes to things that really matter in life in the world of style. Here is my father. He fought in France so that this country and all the others could stay free. When he came back, they striped him at the decks, his gun, his uniform, the dignity they have allowed him for a few mad years, because the world needed man to fight and be ready to sacrifice themselves for something called freedom. 1972, 16 to 17. Sinsue's statement that I am a man is also ironical. How much of a man is he when he cannot provide for his family and cannot even hold his own against a small white boy who calls him boy? What is the use of being a man when you are physically strong but cannot hold a job of your choice, or are not even free to take decisions that will affect your family? Sinswe Bansi is determined to remain in Port Elizabeth to earn a living for his family, so he robs a dead man of his identification paper and living and working permits. Sinswe thus becomes a ghost, forced to live in the shadows after he writes to his wife with the announcement of his own death and his resurrection as Robert Welizima. The law inevitably catches up with him, but Sinswe can experience no greater loss than that of his concern for the dead man, or retreat in the face of the apartheid system, which forces people to prey on others, even on the dead, and robs people of their capacity for feeling and conscience. In A Place with the Pigs, 1988, Fugard explores on the damaging effects of excessive political control on the lives of individuals. Pavel, a Soviet army deserter, dwells in hiding among pigs for 41 years of his fear of the authorities. Fugard is South Africa's foremost playwright, writing in English, and his works constitute the most significant theatre to come out of South Africa. Determined to live and work in South Africa when other artists chose exile or were imprisoned, Fugard is one of the few white South African artists to collaborate successfully with black compatriots. Summary. Fugard conveyed the themes of racial politics, the failure of religion, and the discrepancy between illusion and reality through the pain and deprivation of common people. Common people of both sides of the color line are painfully affected by the socio-economic policies of apartheid. In exploring their lives, Fugard exposes the internal feeling that shape external actions and responses. These people live in poor areas designated for them and endure a precarious existence where peace and joy are only found in distant dreams and frozen memories of the past. End of study section 17. Thanks for listening.